Oh, Jess, good. Come on, let me in. It's really, really cold out here. Dying.
How do I know it's you?
Come on, you know it's me. Look at me. Listen to my voice. It's obviously me.
What's your favorite food?
Dumplings.
What kind of dumplings?
All dumplings.
Who's your favorite cat?
Peanut, but don't tell me, Jasmine.
What's your favorite video game?
Three-Way Tie, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, and Castlevania Symphony of the Night, probably.
Well, I guess I don't want to give you the cold shoulder.
Cold shoulder? That's really funny. Damn it, he hates puns.
This is Jess from Outpost 31. It's day 5, and we don't know who's who or who's what. There's between 4 and 8 of us still here, and we've decided to make a break for it. But before we do, we're going to have to scavenge for supplies. We're going to need some rope, maybe some dynamite, a flamethrower if we can really get it. Problem is, those things are still in here with us, and they have other plans. The worst part is, they look like any one of us.
Based on one of the most effective horror movies of all time, The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31, is a hidden traitor game where between 4 to 8 players are trying to escape the Arctic base before it's overrun by the alien menace that has hidden itself among the survivors. In it, players are going to move from room to room, scavenging for supplies, but all along the way, the looming threat of a hidden traitor among their number will hinder their cooperative efforts. What's amazing about this game is how much of the theme it packs into its gameplay, so those who are familiar with the movie are going to love it, especially because all of the characters are present, and each one has a unique player power. And so there's a lot of thematic ties that work really well. As far as the mechanics go, of course, well, when you're crawling around in the dark looking for some dynamite or some rope, the last thing you're going to want to bump into is an angry set of claws or tentacles. As the survivors try to make good on their escape, they're going to be scavenging from across the outpost to find the objects that they need. In order to do that, every round, one player is going to be the captain for that round, the lead player. The captain will flip over a mission card. That mission card will tell you how many players need to be involved in the mission and which roles must be present if at all possible. The captain is always on the mission. The captain will then assemble their team and decide which room that they want to send the exploration to. Once they get there, the players involved in the mission will contribute cards in an attempt to successfully investigate the room. And if they are successful, they'll manage, hopefully, to uncover useful objects like rope, which is necessary for escaping, and also necessary for tying up characters under certain circumstances. If you're particularly unlucky, you might find yourself face to face with one of the imitators, and, well, things can get pretty ugly at that point.
Mission update. We've managed to find some supplies, and we've actually even killed one of those things. Problem is, nobody's hurt. I don't buy that. I'm willing to bet somebody did get infected during that fight. I just can't figure out who.
Every time the survivors scavenge a room, they're going to need to search it, and they'll do so by contributing cards from their hand. Now, the cards that each player holds are useful for a bunch of different things, be they dealing with environmental hazards, like using a fire extinguisher to put out a fire, or an axe to take care of an imitation that attacks you during the course of your turn. So, why doesn't everybody just contribute what they need in order to make sure that they search every room? Well, first of all, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. As the game goes on and more parts of the base get opened up for you to scavenge from, there's going to be fewer and fewer supplies to go around, and you probably don't want to use up every available resource every time you go out on a mission, because after all, maybe you need one of those specific cards to deal with a specific challenge somewhere in the future. But there's also the problem that hidden amongst you are at least 1 or 2 imitations, depending on your player count. And by subtly manipulating the success and failure of different missions, the imitations can scuttle the efforts of the human players to find what they need and to make it out. Now, a clever imitation isn't going to just screw up every mission that they go on, because that's an easy way to get figured out. But the problem is, you never really know whether someone's playing conservatively because they're an imitation, or because they really don't have the cards that they need, or because they're thinking about a future turn.
Okay, listen. I've got what I need, and it's just me and one other guy. We're headed to the chopper now. I think this is going to work out.
So anyway, that's the thing, Infection at Outpost 31. I really like it. I really like it, and that's surprising because, generally speaking, I don't like hidden traitor games. Like, I just don't really enjoy the genre that much, but I feel like this does enough interesting things that it captures my attention.
Yeah. I love these types of games.
Yeah, you actually not only enjoy them, but are good at them.
Yeah, I have what they call an honest face, and
It's true.
I get away with a lot. But this one appeals to me because it has that rising tension.
It definitely ramps up over the course of the game, right?
Yeah, you've got rooms being destroyed, resources are getting tight, and you got those blood samples at the end.
Yeah. Just like the movie, they do just before they get in the chopper. If the survivors can manage to make it all the way to the end and get all the things that they need and kill all the imitations that they encounter, they get on the chopper, and if they're lucky, they can do some blood tests to try and uncover who might be a traitor among them.
Of course, if you've done badly during the game, you're going to have less and less blood tests available, to the point where you might not even have any, and you just have to get on the blood chopper blind. That's
true. One of the things that I think is really good about this game, really interesting, is that the traitor, though they are always outnumbered, there's actually more than one way for the traitor to win.
Yeah.
And so, while they do have to play this cat and mouse game, and they have to kind of like lay low at first and earn people's trust, and then maybe sabotage some things or whatever, if they don't tip their hand, things can still go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Because if rooms get destroyed, that's one way for the players, the good guys, to lose. If enough missions get failed, or if every time they fight one of the imitations, and then if they can't succeed in combat, then there's this tracker that goes up, and if that tracker hits 7, it's game over. So while there is that mismatch in sort of numbers, right? The traitor is always outnumbered. As the traitor, you're doing more than just sweating and biting your nails and hoping that no one pieces together who you are, because this stuff going wrong anyway. The game is challenging to begin with most of the time, and so I think that's really interesting. The other thing that I think is interesting, the thing that I think makes Infection Outpost 31 worth the price of admission, is the fact that you start with a certain number of imitations, but then every time you move to another part of the base, there's the potential for a previously uninfected player to change sides randomly and secretly. And so what that means is that you might find yourself in a position of needing to change teams midstream. I think that's fantastic.
That happened to us last time we played. You had convinced Josh that I was the traitor for once.
Because you usually are, right.
Yeah.
For once you weren't.
But then, like, halfway through the game, you became the traitor.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I didn't know that I was going to be changing teams when I was trying to deduce who was the traitor in the first place.
And you were trying to make me out to be it.
Thankfully, I was wrong, because 99% of the time you are the traitor, but more importantly, there were some early plays that made it look a little bit like maybe you were the traitor. And so those early game suspicions actually ended up working against the human players when 2/3 of the way through the game I changed sides, and nobody saw Joe coming.
No, not at all.
And that's the other thing. When you become infected partway through the game, you don't know who your Confederates are. So, you still don't know whose team you're on, even when you change teams. It's interesting. I think it's really cool.
It's so claustrophobic and so paranoid. It's just like the movie.
Right. So you're a huge fan of the movie, right? It's one of your favorite horror movies ever. How does this sort of not compare, but how does it measure up as an experience to someone who loves the source?
I think it holds up really well. Just as the movie builds with every scene, you've got the same thing going on here, to the point where it's that last moment, and you're just about to get on the chopper, and you just don't know if you're gonna, all lose because of it.
And if the Imitations have been playing their game well, you may not even have a blood test to throw somebody out and to vote someone out of the chopper. At the end of the day, I think the fact that they included all of these characters, this giant pile of player powers, each one of them is unique, and their power kicks in when they're the captain, when they're the lead for the round. I just think that they did a real good job here, making a game. The combat in here is a little bit of dice rolling. It's not very robust combat rules at all, and I think that works.
Yeah, it's more about the paranoia between the players and trying to convince each other of who is what.
Right, and managing that hand of cards, because no matter which team you're on, the game gives you excuses to not just play your best card every time. And so there's a little bit... again, there's this little, is she holding back because she doesn't have the card? Is she holding back because she doesn't want to help? Is she holding back because she really is thinking about a future turn? I've got a card that's going to be really useful in a certain circumstance. And maybe you don't want to contribute cards because you're convinced you're on a team with a traitor and they're going to tank it. Why would you waste your good cards? So there's good paranoia fuel. What I will say is that it does not play as well at lower player counts. And for 4 players to be the low end, that's a little bit of a big ask. This is not a party game, so saying get 8 people together to play it can be, I think, a little daunting.
Well, if you're going to have a horror-themed party, it could work.
Totally. That would absolutely work. I think we played it best at
6.
At 6, yeah. 6 was sort of the sweet spot. 8 players, you got a bit more downtime, although not much, when you're not on the mission. Whereas at 4, the problem is you're
everyone's on the missions at the time.
Yeah, there are very few just 3-player missions. So you almost always take everybody. So the traitor's almost always there. It takes a little bit of the spirit of the experience out of it. So play it at higher player counts. Around 6 players is best. But at the end of the day, I think I wholeheartedly recommend Infection Outpost 31 as a neat twist on a genre that I normally have very little patience for.
Yeah, and even as a fan of the game style, I'm just all about this game. I love it.
So anyway, I'm Andrew, and this is Jet. Am I mistaken, or was your hair blue at the beginning of this review?